The rain pounded the streets of Houston, Texas, turning the pavement into a shimmering mirror of streetlights. Detective Mark Calloway leaned against his unmarked police car, sipping a lukewarm coffee as he studied the wreckage ahead. A black sedan, crushed beyond recognition, sat at the base of an overpass. The scene had all the makings of a tragic accident: skid marks, shattered glass, and the unmistakable scent of burnt rubber hanging in the air. Inside the car, a woman lay motionless. Melissa Turner, 32. A beloved elementary school teacher. Her body was positioned unnaturally, her hands still gripping the steering wheel, her seatbelt fastened. A freak accident, they said. She must have lost control. But something gnawed at Mark. "Hey, Calloway." A forensics tech approached, his face pale. "Ms. got something strange." In the sterile morgue, under the bright fluorescence, the medical examiner pulled back the sheet. "At first glance, you'd think it was just blunt force trauma from the crash," she said, pointing to a bruising pattern on Melissa's ribs. "But look closer." Mark stepped in. A sharp chill ran through him. There it was, 2 puncture wounds at the base of her neck. Small. Precise. Almost deliberate. This woman was dead before the crash. The examiner's voice was barely a whisper. Mark's grip tightened on the edge of the table. This wasn't an accident. This was murder. And someone had gone to great lengths to make sure it looked like one. Melissa Turner's life seemed perfect on the surface. A dedicated teacher, a loving sister, no known enemies. But as Mark dug deeper, cracks began to show. Her phone records revealed multiple late-night calls to a number in Dallas, Texas. The recipient, James Holloway, an ex-cop turned private investigator. Mark drove down to Dallas, tracking James to a rundown office near Deep Ellum. The man had bloodshot eyes and a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow. "She knew something," James muttered, lighting a cigarette with shaking hands. "She came to me 2 weeks ago, terrified. Said she was being followed." "Followed by who?" Mark pressed. James exhaled a plume of smoke. "She didn't say. But she kept mentioning a case from 10 years ago in Maryland, a cold case. A murder staged as an accident." Mark's pulse quickened. "Did she give you a name?" James hesitated. Then, he reached into a drawer and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. A name was scrawled across it: Dr. Henry Whitmore. Mark ran the name through the system. Whitmore, a former forensic pathologist in Maryland, had been linked to multiple suspicious deaths, cases ruled as accidents but whispered about in dark circles as murders for hire. But he had vanished 5 years ago. Yet, Melissa had found something. And now, she was dead. The deeper Mark dug, the darker the case became. Los Angeles, Florida, New York. In each city, there had been deaths ruled as accidents, drownings, car crashes, house fires. But they all had one thing in common: a faint puncture wound at the base of the neck. Mark's investigation led him to an underground forum where conspiracy theorists whispered about a shadowy figure called the Surgeon. A killer who made murder look like misfortune. A man who was always one step ahead. Then, something chilling happened. Mark's phone buzzed. An anonymous number. A text message. "Detective, stop digging. Or you'll end up just like her." His blood ran cold. Mark wasn't about to back down. He retraced Melissa's steps, finding surveillance footage of her last movements. The night before her death, she had met someone at a diner in downtown Houston. The grainy footage showed a man sliding an envelope across the table. Mark tracked the man down. He was a retired journalist named Elliot Grayson, and his hands trembled as he handed Mark the envelope. Inside were autopsy reports from across the country, deaths that had all been ruled accidental. And in each case, Dr. Henry Whitmore had been involved. Mark finally had proof. But before he could act, Elliot was found dead. Another accident. The clues led Mark to a secluded house in upstate New York. There, he found Whitmore, or what was left of him. The man had been executed. And in his pocket was a note: "Loose ends get cut." Whoever was behind this was still out there. Watching. Waiting. Mark turned to leave when his phone buzzed again. A new text. One that made his blood freeze. "You're next."